And now, the Kill or Be Killed podcast with Damian Ross, founder and master instructor of the Self-Defense Company.
Hi, this is Damian Ross from the Self-Defense Company, and you are listening to the Kill or Be Killed podcast. And as always, I'm with my good friend, George Hutchings, who is the Director of Instructor Development for the Self-Defense Company. Hey, George, how you doing today, brother?
I'm doing great, my man. It's, snowy day up here in Canada, but it's all good. So been looking forward to this topic today.
Yeah, so awareness and threat de-escalation. In fact, George, you were the inspiration from this. So you started off, brother.
Okay. I've been with you since, 2011, and we've been going on and talking so much about what to do when shit hits the fan. The system is there. It's designed for it. But we do get a lot of questions from people, and there's a lot of misconceptions out there about how to practice proper awareness, situational control, how to posture, how to de-escalate. And I mean, look, we're not law enforcement, we're not security. The idea of de-escalating is not always going to be an easy thing to do. So, this isn't Star Trek. Shit doesn't just materialize out of nowhere. Everything has a start, a middle, and an end. And what I wanted to talk about, and I know what you want to discuss, is just the idea of awareness first and how important it really is. I mean, we talk about, distance, balance, momentum, position as the fundamentals of defensive tactics from a self-defense company standpoint. And distance, absolutely 100% is important. If somebody can't touch you, they can't fucking hurt you. And this is why awareness becomes so important. I was out the other day watching some people coming out grocery shopping, head down in their phone as they're carrying 10 bags, completely oblivious to everything that's going on. And I think it's important that we talk about, Cooper's color codes with our students and with our instructors, because this is something that does need to be discussed.
There's a lot here. I mean, first, and we say this in the beginning of the training, if you don't have awareness, there's no system on the planet that's going to save you. So we're really about managing your space, and it's how you interact with your environment. And we go specifically through, not letting people into your personal space. We do talk about this. The problem that I do have with it is that, like most things in the world, people have a tendency to overcomplicate and place way too much importance on complicate things and make them extremely difficult. Like you've got we'll go through the color codes that you have, and I have my own little personal system that I'll share with you as well. But when we're talking about awareness and how you interact with your environment, we said it starts from managing your personal space and paying attention to the world around you. I mean, there's three drills that, a couple of drills we do, and one is, counting hats. And you could count, bald guys. I mean, years ago, actually, instructor Darren Posel came up with this, and it was excellent. When you're out, you just start counting heads, counting bald heads, counting hats, looking around. At least that gives you that perception of that you're paying attention. You actually are, but you're up, you're looking up, your head is up. The other one is, playing hide and go seek. So when you're walking, you're looking in the areas where people would hide, and, you're keeping a wide berth around them so that they don't have the, they can't close the distance on you. Because like you said, in order for anybody to get close to you, they have to impose their will on you. And in order for them to get close to you, there's only two ways that happens. And we say this right in Module 1. Either you get close to them or they get close to you.
That's right. And I think keeping it in its most simplest form is too many people today are completely switched off. And that's what predators are looking for. They're looking for three things. They're looking for weakness in an individual, whether it's physical limitations or emotional. Maybe they just broke up with a significant other. They just lost their job. Their focus is not on what it should be focused on. And then, of course, there's this, what we're talking about right now, being completely oblivious, being switched off. This is one of the most common things that you see, whether it's kids straight through to adults. You see it everywhere. Just go out and watch people walking down the street. And then, of course, the third thing being, are you alone?
Right.
So, and obviously the purpose of this right now is to talk about that middle component. Don't be switched off. I believe the FBI referred to it as victim state.
Okay, so talk about your color codes, the Cooper color codes, which a lot of people know, but just for those people who don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, yeah, so giving credit where credit is due to Cooper for this, white is you're just unprepared, unready to take any kind of action. So the only time you should ever be in white mode is when you're asleep, or maybe you're sitting at home after a long day at work, feet are up on the table, you're having a beer, you're having a drink, you're having a smoke, you're talking to the wife, the kids are running around, you're watching TV. But, I mean, as soon as that phone rings, as soon as there's the doorbell, door knock, whatever, you're going to want to flip into yellow. And yellow is where you should live your life for the most part. It's in a prepared but alert and relaxed state. So you've got good situational awareness of what's going on. From there, you would go to an orange state. Orange is you're alerted to some kind of potential danger. You're ready to take some kind of action. Your heart rate is starting to increase a little bit and elevate at this point. From there, we go red. Red is now action mode. This is where the fight or flight response will kick in. Heart rate will go from about 114 beats per minute to 140, 145. You'll start to almost feel like the signs of, or show the signs of intoxication. Some of those gross motor skills will break down. Some of those finite motor skills will break down, and you can only rely on gross motor skills. You're focused on the emergency at hand.
What I like to use when you get to that condition, red, is when you can run, you can swing a baseball bat.
Yes.
These are the kind of motions that we talk about, and we use the term gross motor. I mean, technically, they're complex motor, believe it or not, but we stay away from the term complex because it makes you think of fine motor skills.
Yep.
So swinging a bat, kicking a ball, that's what you can do, and then running and crawling are the other skills.
That's right, and then the last skill, which isn't always talked about, or the last color, which isn't always talked about, is black. And black, now you are in complete panic. Your heart rate's over 175 beats per minute. This is where you have a breakdown of physical and mental performance, and where that subconscious is going to look for a solution to deal with whatever situation it is the best that it possibly can. So if you haven't trained, if you haven't instilled anything into that hard drive in your subconscious, you're very likely to not respond.
Well, the problem is exactly, that if you haven't done anything to mentally prepare yourself, let alone physically prepare yourself, but to me, the two are hand in hand. When you're physically preparing, you're mentally preparing. I mean, that's what's giving you confidence. That's what's giving you, now you're gaming it out in your mind, what's going to happen. You're thinking about it. You're developing a plan. So if you don't, and you get to that level, you get to black, which is a blackout condition, where, I mean, I'll be honest, myself has done things in that state under that type of stress where afterwards you're just like, how the hell did I wind up here? But I'm here. And, it's just like, your training starts to kind of kick in as you fade in and out. I mean, there's just so many, like, Grossman does a good job at getting at this, what happens. We used to call this the tacky psych effect years ago. I don't know where the hell that came from, to be honest with you. But it was where, like auditory exclusion, extreme tunnel vision, 100 some odd different, physiological things that happen to you when you're under stress. And that's due to your blood leaving your extremities and getting into your vital organs and large muscle groups to prepare you for combat. So, as you're going through this process, and the color code is great, but I kind of have my own personal one that I use, and it's, it's just essentially, it's 3 levels, and it's, maybe a little bit more descriptive than color codes. It's, first, it's be your own cop, be your own bodyguard, be your own hitman. So when you're out and about in public or you're interacting with anybody, you're your own cop. So you got to think of yourself as on patrol. You're looking around, you're paying attention, your awareness is heightened, you're looking for potential problems. Then when you get to the next stage where there's some interaction, now you're your own bodyguard. You're protecting your space. You're looking for avenues of escape. You're looking for ways to protect others. And then finally, when you engage, when you get in that condition red, you're your own hitman. I mean, you're doing whatever you need to get the job done. And you're going to do it without regard for whoever's in front of you. And that is, when you're going from those 3 phases, at least you got a little bit more mental imagery about how you should act and, how you're going to present yourself. But, so, I mean, the color codes is great. I like using my thing, when I'm out, I'm like, okay, I'm on patrol. Okay, if I think there's going to be a problem, then, okay, I'm a bodyguard. Here I go. And then when there is a problem, well, now I got to do what I got to do.
Yeah, and you know what? That's a great way of breaking it down. I mean, that obviously keeps you in the right mindset too, because if and when shit does hit the fan and you've already mentally prepared to be a hitman, you can go to that space. You're already there.
And this is the problem that people kind of can't listen. It's interesting because I'm talking to my son and his buddy yesterday. They were like 8th grade kids, and they're like, I couldn't, stab somebody, and I'm like, well, that's good. The thought of doing it, I'm like, that's because you're a sane, normal. I don't know how that happened growing up in my household, but you're a sane, normal person. And I go, yeah. I don't enjoy thinking about hurting people. In fact, it repulses me. But I go, when I tell you, like, now you think about when you're faced with a situation where I have to protect or survive, well, then you can see where you'd be willing to do these things. And he's like, yes, and that's where, it's funny, like years ago, it was like we were training out in the yard and, my friend's mom was there and she's like, I could never do that stuff. And we're like, yeah, okay. What if someone was gonna hurt little Billy here? She's like, oh, I'd kill him. Right. So
yeah.
A lot of this is all perspective, and you understand that when you're in those situations, you got to be willing to do those things, and it's a process of when you're training and when you're going through your drills, of just kind of getting into that mindset. And this is the what if. Nobody in their right mind wants to hurt another human being. No one. And that's why these people aren't in their right minds. And there's something to be said. It's like having the rabid dog. You got the family dog, but these predators that, they're broken. There's something wrong with them. They don't, have your same, value or skill set or values or scruples, because if they did, they wouldn't be doing this in the first place. So.
Absolutely. And mindset, mindset is so important. And I think we're going to do another podcast about mindset because we could talk about that forever. But just one thing I want to touch on, very quickly here about mindset is when I work with women, especially, you get a lot of women who have the mindset of they're afraid to be hurt. And with the mindset of being afraid to be hurt, it causes you to not actually take action when you need to take action. I say to women, fear being raped, because if you fear being raped, you are going to fight fucking tooth and nail to avoid that. Are you going to be hurt during the altercation? Well, you probably will be. But you know what? You're probably not going to be raped. And if you're not raped, there's a lot of potential psychological issues that now you are avoiding, because there's a whole lot of issues that come with being raped and those kind of, things happening.
Right. And the fact that they're taking some proactive steps and doing something about it, it goes a long way. And it's when people do that, they don't give themselves enough credit. If you're willing to take a step and to start training and preparing about this and acknowledging that this might happen, the chances are it might not, but the chances are it might, and I want to be able to do something about it. And what we do is, what I also like to do is to, when you get that kind of, I don't want to be hurt, it's like, okay, well, third party, the aggression, think of something that they care about.
Yes.
Especially with children, so I want you to focus on, I don't care if it's your pet, if it's your spouse, if it's your grandmother, whoever it is, put yourself that is what's being threatened, and that's whose life is in danger. And that once you start getting into that mode, when it becomes beyond themselves, they start to think about that frustration and anger, and they start to channel that. Again, I don't want to get in the mindset because I want to go over de-escalation, but that'll be, again, that's another topic. So I got to cut that short because, again, I see us going down that rabbit hole.
I think one thing before, you jump into de-escalation too, is just briefly touch on carrying yourself in public. And I mean, this is a very big thing, especially for women who are naturally passive. There's a lot of guys who are passive too, but women who are naturally passive who walk, down the street, their heads down, kind of goes with situation. So let's talk about the importance of how you should be looking, because, if you look like food, you're going to get eaten.
Right. So two things that you did that I mentioned before, two drills you're going to do every day is you're going to count either hats or bald heads, however you want to put it, because that's what's going to keep your eyes up and looking around. And you're just counting them, and you're not making extended eye contact with anybody. It's just a glance, a movement, and awareness. So your head is up and you're around. Second, you're going to play hide and go seek. You're going to walk. You're going to avoid areas where somebody can come out and close the distance on you. So you're going to just be looking around walls, looking around corners, keeping a wide berth, going in between, going by parked cars, things like that. Those two things right there are going to get your head up, your shoulders up, you're looking around, you're moving. Put your phone in your pocket, put your hand on your pepper spray or whatever it is you're carrying, and when you're moving from areas from one to another, like moving like now everyone's going shopping, they're at the mall, so you're moving from the mall to your car. You're moving from store to store. You're moving through open areas where there's a lot of crowds, like you're at a sporting event or a concert. So you need to pay attention and be your own cop. I mean, that's what you're doing. And once you start, act as if, right? Like you touched on it before, predators act like this. Act as if you're in charge. Okay.
Yes.
Prey doesn't make eye contact. Prey, is head down, looking to be invisible. So you're not drawing attention to yourself and the fact that you're just presenting yourself in a way where it's, they make a subconscious decision. They do the risk-reward analysis just like everybody does. Everybody's a cost benefit. No matter what you do, whether it's, to get off your ass, to go get another cup of coffee, or to, roll somebody. You're doing, is the juice worth the squeeze? And if they're going to look at you and they're going to think you're going to be a problem, it's literally a split-second decision. Again, unless you've got a nice, $15,000, $20,000 Rolex hanging on your wrist, or, you're just putting away a bunch of cash, or you're walking out with a shitload of boxes from Tiffany's, then you're going to have another heightened awareness and another level about you. But, they are sizing you up. And keep in mind, and this is, and I'm glad you brought this up because it's bringing up something that we didn't touch on. I mean, there's a size up. Every situation is a size up. So as a predator, I'm watching you. So it's not going to be a 5-second decision. I mean, that decision could last, minutes, hours, days. They're going to be following you. and they're going to be coming around. They're going to be watching you. They're going to be following you through the mall. They're going to be following you, at a party. They're going to be following you at a bar. They're going to be following you throughout your day. There's people that are, patrol. They're patrolling and they're looking for targets of opportunity. They have to watch you. They have to see if one, you've got something they want. Two, if you're alone. Three, if you're going to put up a fight. Okay. Four, if they're going to get caught, injured, or identified. That was actually three things, but you know what I'm saying. So
that's right.
Another three things, but they're looking for opportunity to minimize their getting caught, getting injured, or getting identified. So they just can't automatically. Sorry to cut you, but they just can't automatically. It's not a 5-second decision where they see George, like, okay, I'm going in. No, it doesn't work like that. So you need to be aware and pay attention and trust your gut when these things, when you're your own cop.
And instincts are massive, obviously, and that's something we'll talk about momentarily. So I guess what you're basically saying in its most simplest form is live above your shoulders. Live above your shoulders, and you can avoid 90 to 95% of the problems that are out there. Absolutely. And for that other 5% or 10%, now you have an interview that's going to happen that you want to fail.
Right.
So let's talk a little bit about this interview, because if you pass this interview, you're going to be in a world of hurt.
Right. So, people talk about, verbal judo, de-escalation, and I would say the majority of what they teach is misapplied to civilians. So,
yes.
When you're, the message, it's not so much the message as to how it's being said, and more to the point of who it's coming from. So if you're a police officer and you are coming onto a scene, de-escalating the situation, you've got a ton more weight behind your words than average Joe Schmo, and then bring it on down. So to think that there's going to be a magic wand that you're going to be able to talk to somebody and give them in a way, that you're not going to be able to do the same things that a police officer or security agent or somebody in the military is going to do. Okay, it's just not happening, because no one is, if the consequences of transgressing your, words don't come with the weight of a lot of pain, possibly getting killed, and definitely being expensive and spending time and getting locked up in jail. So, when you want to sit there and say like, well, I want to teach people how to talk their way out of things, I'm going to say it's for civilians, it's very simple, right? So you have to look at the three things that the criminal fears, okay? Being caught, being identified, or being injured. All right. So whatever you do has to add, increase the possibility of those three things happening. You're also operating under the premise that the majority of people don't want to fight. They want to save face. Right? Are you there?
Yeah, no, I'm agreeing 100% with what you're saying.
I thought you fell off the planet, brother. So, yeah. So, when you're dealing with somebody, first it's, they don't want to be embarrassed, right? Something's happened where, they feel the need, they have to do something, and they got to talk to you about it. And they have to, they're angry, and it's all about they're either losing, look, you're either gonna, it's either injury, money, or, self-esteem. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. So,
yep.
Most of the times it's people, it's a self-esteem issue. So, you've got to approach people where it's like, hey, you don't want to match what they're doing as far as their energy level. In fact, you want to be a little bit lower than them, and you don't want to be a condescending asshole. So
that's right.
If, keep in mind, by the way, if somebody wants to fight, they're going to fight, and they're going to use force, and there ain't no way about it. And if they're sizing you up, be ready, because that's where we got to manage your space and your distance between them, where you get to that magic spot where they have to, in order for them to hurt you, they got to shift their weight. So that's why we establish distance, and this is why it's critically important you know how to do that. And this is why we cover this in the first lesson. So, you need to establish that threshold, because no matter, what they say is not the problem. It's more what they do. So you need to react when they cross that threshold. So you got your line in the sand, and you're engaging with them, and you need to do it in a way where, hey, you know what? They've got a way out that, enables them to not look like a total schmuck. Now, if you want to be peacekeeper, there's two situations. There's, whether you're breaking up a fight or somebody's engaging with you, right? So, someone engaging with you, it's, establishing your distance. You're like, hey, man, I don't think there needs to be a problem here. I think we can work this out. And it depends over what it's over. But it's, it's either you're going to acquiesce and give it to them, or you're going to put your flag in the sand. And this is like, no, I want this parking space. Go piss off, right? So you've got to determine right away whether what you're fighting over is worth fighting for, right?
Absolutely.
So, at that point, you've already made your mind made up. So it really is like, look, you take the parking spot. It's not worth it, right? Take this, take that, do that, take my seat. It's not a problem. So if it's not worth fighting for, it right there, 99.9% of any of the bullshit you're going to deal with is done. If you make the decision that it's not worth fighting for. Now, in a situation where you've got two people and you want to diffuse it, again, assuming these are people that you know or you kind of know, I mean, not operating from a position of authority is a problem, and you're going to get yourself into trouble. All right? But if you feel the need to be compelled, the quickest and easiest thing to do is to ask one of the people involved, one of the parties involved, hey, man, can you come here and talk to me for a second? Get them away. Get one of them, separate them, get them out. Bring them outside. I mean, when we used to, years ago when I was doing security and bouncing and doing the other stuff, the easiest way to throw a guy out, come up and be like, excuse me, can I talk to you for a second? Please, I can't hear you in here. I need to talk to you outside. And you walk them outside, you and your buddy, and once they get outside, like, look, man, I'm going to have to ask you to go tonight. And before you know it, they were thrown out, and you didn't even have to put your hands on.
That's right.
So, it's easy enough. You want to separate the two people in a way that is just like, hey, not in a way that's like, hey, you asshole, you go over there. No, it's like, hey, man, can I talk to you for a second? You don't want to get in between them. Again, unless these are people you know, but as soon as if you don't know them and you're putting hands on them, I mean, that, look, it's happened to me, where I've been going at it and then somebody I know put their hands on me. Now I got a problem with you, because I don't know.
That's right.
So, you've got to be able to separate them from the situation, remove that territorial thing, get them out of that geography, and bring them over to someplace where they can calm down. Because once the threat is not imminent, then people can be more rational and they calm down. Because you got that 30-second adrenaline burst that goes through people, so you got to kind of let that run its course, and then they'll calm down and they'll be a lot more easier to talk to.
Yeah, and I think the whole talk about, verbal de-escalation, it has its place, at times. I mean, you and I were talking about a typical, we're at the bar having a couple drinks, and I turn around and accidentally spill your drink, and you get fucking pissed off, and now we're having words. It's for situations like that. You stole my fucking parking spot. It's for situations like that. When we're talking about more serious threats now, people who have bad intentions when it comes to women with sexual assault, they're going to take what they want regardless of what you say. So trying to verbally de-escalate a situation like that is just not going to happen. And I think this is where we need to teach people to use their voice as a tool and not try and talk a situation down. I mean, no in itself is a fucking that's a full sentence. So
exactly right.
when I'm dealing with women, I'm talking to them about how to use their voice, not how to try and de-escalate. I'm hoping by using their voice that they can let the person know they're not going to be a target. They're not going to back down. It comes into posturing, and hopefully that posturing will work. But if somebody wants something bad enough, they're going to take it, and that's where preemption and that preemptive strike is going to need to be, utilized.
Yes, and that's where, again, the verbal stops a lot of stuff. And you don't have to get into and then once you start using force, you don't have to get in a title fight with people. I mean, but you also have to be prepared to go that way. So,
yeah.
I think I've got one of the reports posted that we're in, 90% of sexual assaults were stopped with any type of resistance, from verbal to physical. Once you're rolling through the situation where it's like, no, and they're like, get off me, no. I mean, as soon as you tell somebody that, and they don't, well, you're pretty much green lit to do what needs to be done, because they're going to understand they're going to get violent anyway. So once you start telling them, once you give them that no, stop, and they keep going, well, they were willing to do whatever they were going to do anyway. So
yeah, what more information do you need once you've seen that? And I mean, you can sit there and say, maybe a guy's come and approaches you in the parking lot offering to help you with your bags. You politely decline, say, no, I've got it. Okay. Well, if he starts to elevate his voice a little bit and not back away, we know this guy's not being chivalrous. We know this guy has other intentions. And this is where you need to raise your voice above his. There's a difference between, no and back off to back the fuck off. And that brings us into talking a little bit about profanity. And I want to discuss this because this turned into a very big discussion with some of our instructors, and is a very big discussion with just in the industry when it comes to training, being vulgar and, utilizing profanity. Look, at the end of the day, this language is street speech. It's designed to be cutting. It's designed to bring you down. It's designed to get you to capitulate to whatever it is that I want. People are going to use that language, and to the average person, it's unfamiliar. That's why they use it. You need to become familiar with the unfamiliar. You need to be able to adjust yourself to, holy fuck, listen to what he's saying to me, and to also be able to use it yourself and to use it in an intelligent way. Again, there's a difference between back the fuck off or back the fuck off, you fucking cunt. You notice I'm being a lot more insulting to the individual. That's going to lead to more problems than just back the fuck off. So in a training environment, I think it's important for us to utilize profanity in a smart way. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, fuck yeah. Dude, look, you want to be unrestricted in what you're doing and what you're saying at the time it is appropriate. So, if I'm pissed off, people talk about, listen, I've heard about self-control, I've heard about, all these things, and I go, then there's other articles where it's like, well, people that use foul language are actually, more intelligent than people who don't. Whatever. I don't, personally, to me, it comes from a place where it's like, I'm going to fucking kill you. And it goes dark, it's unbridled, and it comes out. And, if using the foul language sets you off, well, guess what? Maybe someone trying to bang your head off a fucking curb, maybe that's too far for you too. You got to be willing to do whatever it fucking takes. That's it. And you got to go dark and go fast. And if, you think I'm full of shit, well, you can step to me. I don't give a shit. So, you know what? That's it. I'm pretty public in where I stand. And, when we're training and we're getting that look, if I'm doing an interview, it depends where I am, about what I can control my language without a doubt. But when I'm speaking about certain subjects, well, it's going to come out. And, one thing that you said about, that whole inoculation to it is like, you can't be taken off by someone who swears. I mean, years ago, holy crap, I I was coaching a little junior wrestling program. And this kid's like in 7th grade, and he's wrestling another kid, and the kid's like whispering in his ear, like, I'm going to fucking kill you. I'm going to do this other shit. And the kid I was coaching got so taken back, it completely took him off his game. And he's a 12, 13-year-old kid. And I got to be honest with everybody, you know, it's not like we were raised in a freaking, you know, a monastery. I'm like, you know, kids use foul language a lot. So the fact that words just took him out of his game and he wound up getting his ass kicked because the kid was just talking shit. I mean, so to me, talking shit is part of how you play a sport. And I go, granted, you know, you're always like teach class, you teach to talk, to point at the scoreboard, but that doesn't stop people from talking shit to me. And if you're going to sit there and talk that way, it can't bother you. Words can't bother you in a way that takes you completely out of your physical and mental realm. You know, and if that does, and if you get focused on the words, well, you know what, man, you know, you need some work. You got some work to do because that's not where you should be hanging your hat. Because, you know, somebody does something to you, says something to you. I'm like, holy crap. I'm like, you know, we are, you know, this is it's like 2018, man. Holy crap. And then granted, that doesn't mean I don't treat you with respect, because I do. It doesn't mean I'm not polite, because I am, to a fault. But, you know, how I live my life and then the language I choose to use at certain times is, well, that's how I live my life. And you know what? I'm not going to tell you how to fucking talk. So don't tell me, you pompous piece of shit. But that's really how I feel. I'm like, who the fuck are you? You know, I'm like, I don't, you know, so when it comes to training and language and things like that, I'm like, look, you know, you're talking about getting raped or murdered. Okay, so, you know, that's some R and X rated level stuff. So there's certain language that goes along with it, and there's certain language that people use, and there's certain language that people use to express themselves. So, you know, again, well,
you know, and you're 100% right. And I think the last message that I would want to put out when it comes to using your voice, and this is geared towards the women who are going to be listening to this, is don't put your own fucking safety ahead of being afraid to be rude to somebody. At the end of the day, you don't fucking know that person. You don't owe them anything. Be polite at first, but if they want to push it, you need to step up and put them in their place.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where, you know, again, there's a point to be, if they're not willing to be polite to you and respect your privacy, like the example you gave is great. Hey, can I help you with that? No, thanks. I got it. Hey, no. Let me help you. Hey, I got it. At that point, if they continue, they're not, you know, they're not just trying to be polite. They're trying to impose their will on you. And that's
exactly
what it's all about. Them imposing their will on you. And at that point, you need to make a decision. Do I fight or do I leave? And leaving is fine. Dropping your shit and going is fine. Taking your shit and going, whatever. And if they continue to press you, then you know your answer. Their intentions weren't what they were. Believe me, I don't want to carry anyone else's bags other than my own. If I see someone's having a problem, I'll offer. If they accept it, fine. If they don't, like, I'm like, I understand. Have a great day. And I leave. That's it. You know, so, you know, and this is all about, again, you know, establishing our boundaries, getting back to that awareness, getting back to, you know, putting that line in the sand where they should be in relation to you and controlling that environment. Because, look, you know, they don't, you know, people are going to take what they can, and all these things are just little tests to see if you're going to resist. So, you know, when it comes to like verbal judo and de-escalation, you know, telling people no and get away from me is about all you fucking need. You know, and that's why, you know, to get into a whole, you know, course about it or books on it, I'm like, look, if you're in law enforcement, I get it. You understand how to control a situation. We handle this in the Protector course and in the Guardian Police Combatives course. So it's there, and it's in those programs specifically for that reason. It's to help people in positions of authority control situations. Now, you know, none of this works without the weight behind the words. So, if the people that are telling you that I'm going to teach you how to talk to somebody, and no matter how determined they are, you're going to dissuade them from, physical violence. And that's a bunch of bullshit. So don't walk from that person, because there are some people on this planet who just want to take what you have. They don't give a shit about you, and that's it. And they're just going to make sure they can do it, and they can get away with it. That's it. So you think, some guy, some skell who, is revolving in and out of jail is going to give a shit whether you took a course, and you're going to sit there and think that you're going to be like, look, I'm going to calm this guy down. I'm going to change his life, and he's going to come to Jesus when I'm talking to him. No, you're going to get away from him as fast as you can, or, you're going to have to do something about it. And, after you tell him, leave me alone, no. Because after they don't respect your decision to be left alone, well, then they're not going to nothing you can do is going to stop them. Nothing.
Well, exactly. And I mean, outside. Go ahead.
Sorry, there's something you can do that can stop them, but nothing you're going to say is going to convince them otherwise if they think they can get away with it.
Well, yeah, exactly. And where I was just kind of going with my thought there was outside of being ambushed, outside of that situation, somebody's fucking coming up on you when you've got your back turned, you're, taking a piss in the urinal and you're not paying attention, bash your head off. I mean, outside of that, awareness, why it's so important is because you're going to see those pre-threat cues. And absolutely. I kind of want to finish, with this one little story that I had heard, not actually a story, but last Christmas, there was a couple, they just finished their Christmas shopping. They're in the underground, husband, wife, and this 13-month-old kid. He's loading all the Christmas presents into the back. She's putting the little kid in the baby seat. Well, out of quote, unquote, I'm using air quotes as I talk, out of nowhere, guy comes, grabs him, stabs him fucking 10 times, kills him. When questioned, the wife is just, came out of nowhere. Well, when they went back and watched it on the CCTV footage after, you could see that this guy was in the underground, standing in this spot for about 9 or 10 minutes ahead of time. No car, no keys, no bags, no fucking reason to be there. He was about 20 feet away from these people. So don't you think that if you had originally seen this person, you'd be less likely to be a victim? This is pre-threat cue number one. What the fuck's he doing there? Right. From there, they're talking about how now he puts his focus on this couple. Well, this is pre-threat cue number two, because if somebody's paying more attention to you than themselves, there's a fucking reason for it. And it's probably not good. The third pre-threat cue was now this guy starts walking towards them, looking around, looking for any kind of witnesses, looking for CCTV, whatever. Pre-threat cue number 4, you see him reach into his pants, pull out a knife and conceal it. And then number 5 is the fucking stab. Now, nobody deserves this. But again, don't you think if you saw a person from 20 feet away, you'd be less likely to be a victim? And if he did decide to come at you, now you got enough time to grab your wife, grab your kid, get in the fucking car, lock the doors, and if he continues, run him over.
Right. Again, there's it's all part of, he's sizing you up. I said he didn't materialize out of a puff of smoke. Again, we talk about this first day stuff. He's got to come from someplace. And this is where a lot of, systems fall short, because they talk about it, but they don't systematically train it. And, this is a habit that you can do right now, and you don't have to, you're not paying us a dime. You just go and do it. Count hats, count bald heads, and play hide and go seek. There you go. Yep. And you are constantly training yourself to get in that habit of just looking around and paying attention. Look, I get it. I had young kids, man. I had freaking, we go shopping, we go out. It's a hassle, man. You're thinking about everything else. And this is how life is. And this is how you got to prepare and fit your training and your awareness into your life, is because it's just that. You're going to be distracted. They're waiting for you, but they're there. And you just have to be able to pay attention to it and identify it. So that's it, George. Excellent job as usual. I'm your host, Damian Ross, with George Hutchings, and you've been listening to the Kill or Be Killed podcast. And until next time, Train honestly.
The Self-Defense Company, world leader in close combat.